Welcome back to the Student Hub Live. Well, that was a great session talking about the important relationship with your tutor. Now we have another tutor here, Rob Moore, and Rob's going to show us about some of the IT things and how to OUIT it all. Now, this is a 25-minute session, so we are limited. But Rob, you're going to have a session in the online room, the Adobe Connect tutorial system over lunchtime that students can come and ask you any specific questions that we can't cover. We're going to give a whistle-stop tour to students about this VLE, this virtual learning environment, and we're going to show them how to book onto tutorials and how to submit their TMAs when they're done. Absolutely. First, though, as a tutor, everyone's saying, where's the assignments? Should I be doing them? I'm already 3 weeks ahead. What's your first thing right now as students are just about to start their modules? What's your word of wisdom about where they should be?
Okay, so the VLE, virtual learning environment, we have to give things complicated names.
Yes.
It's basically all the stuff you need to know online. So the first thing you need to do is find your student homepage. Student home is the page where it's got all your details, your profile, etc. Then before your first course, on Student Home, there's a link to your course and you click on it and it brings you to this page. So you can see the page here, and this is your home page for any course. This is a course that's starting at the weekend, but the courses you will study will all look like this. So the basic structure is the same. And when you get to this first page, everything you need to know is here. And this is the secret. A lot of the questions we get are actually answered on this page.
Yeah.
We're always happy to have questions, as you heard earlier, but you can answer them yourself quite quickly by going to this page. So, for example, this is the first level business course, and it's broken down by weeks. So you look into week 1, and it says quite clearly, introduction, click on there, it tells you what the course is, tells you your first session, what you should be doing, what you should be reading, who you should be talking to, and the planner is there for the entire course. So here we have all 32 weeks. 32 weeks seems a really long time when you first log on. But my students who are started in October are already saying it's gone.
I know, nearly halfway through.
Nearly halfway through. But your planner is there and it tells you every step of the way what you need to be doing. So planner is the first thing to go to for your course. You then come out and say, well, where are my assessments? What are my TMAs like? So if you look at the top of the page, there's an assessment tab, and you will be told there what the assessments are.
And very importantly, the dates.
Very importantly, the dates.
To put in your diary.
So your TMA numbers and your dates are there. You can click on view and you'll get to read the TMAs themselves. And when you've submitted them and successfully completed them, your scores will also be on that page. So the assessment tab is a great one for keeping tabs on where you are and what you're up to.
Brilliant.
The other page that we'll talk to about next is the forums. So virtual learning environment, you don't get to sit down with other students very often, but we like you to go and talk as much as possible. And we can do this either in live sessions or more commonly through the forums. So these are chat rooms where you can go and share discussions with other students. Your tutor will be putting key information in the forum, so there'll be messages from your tutor, either setting you tasks or answering questions, or even just having chats about things that are happening. So one of the great things about studying at the moment is so much is happening, and you can share it with your tutor with other students. You can find out who's in your location, who's close to you. So think of the forum as a chat room just for your group, and it's a great way to share ideas and bounce things around.
Now these forums, Rob, so you've got some here, some are module wide, and everyone is set up differently. We heard for Access that there is a one-to-one relationship. Some courses have cafes, some courses have whole cohort forums, some have cluster forums, some have tutor group forums. I guess the tutor groups are the smaller ones. The clusters are sort of medium-sized, and the whole group are big, aren't they? Depending, of course, on how many students there are.
Yes.
But there's a different level of buzziness to them. One thing I love to do is subscribe to them until I then get loads of emails and think, oh no, it's a bit overwhelming, I can't keep tabs with this. So you can sort of tick that little button and subscribe, or you can go in and look at the threads. And I guess we're not going to show those for data protection and time reasons, but they're a really nice way of keeping up to date with things, and often they're sort of pulled into threads that sort of relate to each other, so you can make sense of where you should be looking and what you should be doing. But the important stuff will come from your tutor, but these are a nice to have, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Not an absolute essential to keep track of everything, because that can be overwhelming, especially early days.
We tend to find that before the course date actually starts, people use the welcome forums or the course-wide forums to find out where people are. But once your course has started, you tend to focus on your small group with your tutor.
Yeah. And things settle down a bit. Okay, so this is important. And I also saw before that there were ways to access the forums in different spaces. So when you had the home page up before, you could see the forums down the side. So that home gives you, I guess, those quick ways. So if you've got an assignment due that week, it should be pretty clear that it's there. And then the links to some of these cafes, etc.
Definitely. So as you go through, in the sessions, there will be direct links to the forums you should be contributing to.
Yeah.
Each course is slightly different in the way it uses the forums, so there isn't a standard everybody does it the same way, but there are forums and what you do in them will be explained by your tutor.
And sometimes there are collaborative activities that have marks or credits associated with them, and they're very important to do in case you don't do them. Well, we asked people about whether or not they attend an online tutorial because they can get everything they need from recording the session. I'm very pleased to say that 100% disagree, so they do see a value in being live at any one time, but perhaps that's a sort of bias because people are here in real time, so they're obviously getting something from that chat that you don't then see on a recording.
Well, as a tutor, when I run an online session, there are certain parts which are core to the course itself and they're essential. I record those bits and make sure they're available. But quite often you want to have students that will want to talk about examples or personal things that they might not necessarily want to have go out. So my sessions tend to be recorded for the standard material, but when it comes to the examples from students, we tend to avoid the recording on those simply so that people don't have to worry. So yeah, the recordings are great for catch-ups and for the course information, but you miss out the one-to-one chats, you miss out the really juicy stories that we just can't record or publish. No,
and it's often those that have those real nuggets of help.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's just articulating something or explaining something that can really sort of shift your thinking. Yeah. We've asked students about the challenges that they might have with learning using a virtual learning environment. So let's take a look at what they have to say. Internet signal, internet connection, yes, a very common thing, in particular in Wales, which is where I am. Distracted by forums, yes, very common. I also have that too. Where to start, computer skills, asking questions, finding things, yeah. So whilst it looks very intuitive, Rob, and you're saying it is easy to navigate, and I can see how easy it is to navigate, I was looking on one of the forums the other day and someone was saying, well, where is the study planner? And of course it's clearly labelled, but until you know those things, it can be difficult to navigate. And as we heard from our student support team, they often help students in trying to make sense of some of these things, and it's very common to have problems navigating. But in addition to writing down these weeks and sort of starting to scaffold your time in terms of deadlines, the tutorials are a really key thing that students should book into. Sometimes there are limits on these, but also a benefit of booking onto tutorials is that they'll then automatically populate in your study planner, and then they'll remind you when they're on, which is a great thing to do. So how do students book onto tutorials? And also bear in mind that some of these may be being set up, so not to panic if you aren't seeing tutorials already on your system. The tutors are being allocated, all of that sort of being agreed in these last sort of stages, but they'll be there by the module start.
Yeah, absolutely. So rather than try and show this live, I've pulled some slides together to show this.
Okay.
So again, from student home, so this is your front page. This is where you log in.
Which is different to that module website. So this is the general website here, and then your module website is within that.
So if just look down here, this is your course name. This is where you'll find access to the planner we've just said. On here, you will also see tutorial dates.
Great.
Okay. And that will give you the list of dates available for tutorials. You've mentioned cluster areas. So the way that we give students the best access to tutorials is to give as many as possible and as many options as possible. So you will see quite a few. Students shouldn't think they have to attend them all. I had one student say, well, there's 6 tutorials here, do I have to go to them all? And no, they're duplicates. And so you pick which ones suit you best for your time. And there's normally a mixture of either face-to-face in a college or university or online. And the content is the same, it's just that face-to-face we tend to do slightly longer, and we might have 2 online tutorials that make up the same content. So you go to the link and select which tutorial suits you. So click on Block 4 Tutorial, and it will allow you to select the dates.
Often they'll tell you what's in that tutorial, so you'll have a little description about what's on offer, like at the Student Hub Live.
Definitely, yeah. So there's a description on what should be covered and what the tutor's going to be looking at.
So you book on those. How do you do that then?
So you follow through to the dates that are the computer thinks is best for you. This isn't always the case, and one of the nice things is that if you're studying normally from one location, but you're visiting somewhere else or working somewhere else, there's nothing to stop you finding a location that's more convenient. So you will get the locations that are most convenient based on your
postcode,
your postcode, your profile, but there are also the options to go anywhere. So, for example, here we can see 2 tutorials. Tutorial 4 is delivered in Brighton and Manchester here, and you literally click on Book Now.
Brilliant.
And that
all commits you then, Rob, does it?
Oh, absolutely. We come and chase you up if you no, not at all. Once you've booked, you've reserved your space there, and it means that your tutor knows, or the tutor running that session knows you're going.
Yep.
They will be able to communicate with you directly.
Yep.
And it also makes sure we haven't got too many people,
Yeah.
Particularly in an online room.
Then there's not enough biscuits to go around.
Not enough. Yeah,
we have our online biscuits, Rob.
yes,
don't scoff.
Absolutely, online biscuits. But in an online room, with 40 to 50 is about as many as we can really handle.
There are some with limits, but in particular, and every module will be different, and some will and won't have face-to-face tutorials. But in particular, we've been talking about access for disabled students, and this is a very important thing if you do have access requirements to a particular location, because then the Open University can ensure that will be met and heard.
Yes, definitely. So when we find out about your information, we get special flags that explain if you need any extra help or any extra access.
So they can make sure that the room's on the first floor or ground floor, etc., as the case may be. Okay, this is really good. Now, one other thing I wanted to show about, is this all that we wanted to cover in terms of the booking the tutorials?
So all I wanted to show is that once you've confirmed it,
it
then gives you the option to add it to your personal calendar.
Brilliant.
Which is a nice, easy way to make sure you don't...
Especially if you're using Outlook or one of these other calendars.
And
so you can add it to your personal calendar as well as your study planner.
Yes.
Good.
So it's your choice. You don't have to, but whatever works best for you.
Great.
And then you can always go back and check what you're booked on. And here we can see the example where somebody's on a waiting list or has got the option to join a waiting list. So that one's full, but if somebody drops out. And the thing I will say about the tutorials, particularly the online ones, if you book a tutorial and change your mind, it's really helpful if you cancel it.
Okay, good.
Because that will then free up a space for somebody else to come in. There's no problem from our point of view if you cancel it, but it does help us to judge the numbers, and it's a shame if somebody's waiting to come in.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And
it's not like, as you say, your tutor's going to start saying, well, where were you, what happened, etc. It's just about logistics and organising those spaces. Well, this is great, Rob. So this is really important to do early on so that you're all sorted, you've got everything in the calendar, etc. Now, one other thing that students commonly ask about is submitting TMAs. We have videos, we have guidance about it. Again, it's one of these things that once you've done is so simple, you wonder why. But I wondered if you could talk us through this process so that for people who will eventually, in the next few weeks, be submitting something through this system, they can see how easy it is to use.
Yeah, so TMAs, we love our acronyms. Tutor marked assignment.
Yes.
It's the assignment you send through and your tutor has a look at. Almost all assignments with the Open University are now electronic. It's quite unusual to send in a paper assignment.
Although if you are on Access, because we've got a lot of Access students today, sometimes they will be doing that.
Absolutely. So it's there are some occasions where that happens. Again, on your student homepage, you will find the eTMA service link, and there it is. Again, you click on it. The two forms, the two main places to get access is from your student homepage or from your planner. So again, there's also a link on your planner to the eTMA system. You go into the system, and what you do is you select the TMA you're sending in. Now, you'll notice here, dummy TMA. That's not for people that aren't confident and that think they're going to get it wrong. The dummy TMA is a practice TMA. My biscuits are being
you
stolen.
can't steal our online biscuit. Oh no, he did this last time, but it was with cake. To be fair, okay. Well, we'll have the healthy stuff.
Have the healthy snacks. So a dummy TMA is just a practice TMA.
Not for dummies.
Not for dummies. It's one that lets you submit a document just so your tutor can see it, can put some feedback, and it comes back to you. I recommend that if you've not studied with the OU before or submitted it, or even if you've got a new computer, it's worth doing this.
Now, sometimes there's a deadline for these, isn't there?
Yes, it has to be before the first proper TMA is submitted.
And one thing students often ask is, what do I put on it?
Well, I ask them to be creative. Pictures of pets is a popular one.
Yeah, yeah.
A favourite poem.
Yeah.
It could just be, "Hi, Rob."
Yeah.
You know, it's whatever they want.
Yeah.
I always give 100% when I return those. So dummy TMAs always get 100%. And it's nice to have that in your record.
Though it doesn't count for anything.
But it doesn't count for anything.
It just makes you feel good.
See it.
And then you know you can do it. And I guess it's that whole thing of actually submitting something and then both receiving it back, which is important again if, for example, your computer can't read bubbles or you have additional requirements that mean that you might, respond better to feedback in a different way, and it can alert you to that.
And that's when to talk to your tutor. If you get this back and either you can't access it or you can't read it, then quick note to your tutor, and we can adapt our feedback to you. So some students might prefer to have feedback in an audible file.
Yeah, yeah.
And we can do things if it's going to make it easier for you.
Yeah.
So you select the TMA you want to submit,
Yeah.
you click the submit button. It then takes you to this page, which is a simple 3-step system.
Okay, good.
And you just literally work through the 3 steps. So step 1, you click choose file.
Yeah.
This is where you go to your computer and you select the file that you want to submit.
Okay.
A warning here, make sure you send the right file in.
Yes.
I've had students who have called their TMAs TMA2 or TMA3, and I've received TMAs from a different course.
Yeah.
Because they haven't put the name down.
Yeah.
Or they've sent me a draft.
Yeah.
So it's important to be, when you name your TMA, give it a name that you know you're sending the right one.
And ideally the module code and TMA number and possibly version, or I often call mine final.
I did the same. I call mine final, and that way I know I'm putting the right one in. So once you've pressed submit, you then get the name of your TMA shown here.
Yeah.
And you can double check you've sent the right one. There's lots of checks we go through here.
Yeah.
And again, as you send the TMA 00 with a code number is a good way of putting your names on. You then get asked to read a checklist, and this is to confirm that it's you that sent it, that you're happy with it, and you've read all the instructions. You simply tick those.
But you must read these because, like you say, to be completely fair, if you have students sending the wrong year's assignments, this all is not to be sniffed at, because it means that your tutor's got to mark that. It's your agreement that it's your own work and that it's the right file. And so if you say, "I'm really sorry I sent the wrong file," we're sort of at a bit of a loss because of these tick boxes. So they are important.
Well, if you just tick them without reading them and submit it and there's a problem, the question will be asked, well, you said you read it, did you?
Yeah.
So, this step is really important, making sure you've ticked them correctly.
But as you say, once you've done it once, you'll get the hang of what that all means.
Exactly. And then step 3, you click submit and your file is sent.
Okay.
Which is great. It's on its way. Your tutor gets it within minutes.
Yeah.
And you get a confirmation number.
Brilliant.
This is sent in an email, and you can also access it from the system. So that number can be really valuable if you want to prove yourself. So if something goes wrong with the system, then that number is the thing that proves you've sent it in.
Right.
So don't delete the email till you've got the results back for your TMA, because you may be asked for that number.
Because very, very occasionally something can go wrong. And in this case, this is the student's proof, I guess, that they've submitted it on the due date. Now, Rob, I know that some students want to get ahead and they want to do their TMAs now, and they look perfectly easy and sensible. So they are doing them now and they're submitting them. And students might know that they have a sort of 10 working day turnaround time, which is the maximum length of time that an associate lecturer will spend marking their group of students' work and returning it all to them. I often download mine after the submission date because you can send a few files in, can't you? Now tell me about the files.
Okay, well let me just run through the submission, because once you've got this code, there's an option here called view submission.
Great.
And this is something I always do.
Yeah.
And it lets you check what you've sent.
Yeah.
So what you can do, you click view submission, and then it it's gone from this funny place. So if you find you've sent the wrong file,
Yeah.
or if you've made any changes, you can send a revised version.
Yeah.
You can do this up to 4 more times
Right.
before the cut-off date. You can't do it after the cut-off date, but if you send your submission in and suddenly realise you've missed a question off,
Yeah.
or you haven't attached something, then there's an option then
Yeah.
to go back and redo it.
Yeah.
And I'm like you, I don't collect mine till the submission date,
Yeah.
the cut-off date, because it allows students to make changes before that date.
Yeah, but if some tutors who do download it beforehand and you don't tell your tutor that you're going to make some amends, then the tutor is entitled to mark that first version, aren't they?
Yes, so if you think you're going to send a submission in, a quick email to your tutor, say, please don't mark that one, I'm sending this one in.
Yeah, exactly. Because some students, you know, we all have very versatile lives, and I've heard of students who perhaps are going off to serve somewhere, so they'll try and submit their TMA because they don't know whether they've got internet access, but they might like a bit of tweaking time. So some of those
Exactly.
students might submit those for 2 reasons.
Yeah.
Others, it may be that they've got that wrong submission in. But like you said, that view submission is always a nice way of sense checking, because I do get emails from students saying, can you just check it's all right? And, you know, I say, keep this, because this is your sort of proof. And as long as your file is correct, because I don't know what correct file looks like, I can only tell them what they've submitted. So this is a nice way to check for yourself.
And your point about submitting early, if you think you might not be able to submit later, quite often students going on holiday say, I'm taking my laptop to sit around the pool with it, but I don't know what the access will be.
Yeah.
And the advice is, well, submit something before you go.
Yeah.
So worst case scenario, if you can't submit a second one,
Yeah.
then you get the option, which is
Brilliant.
great. If you do get an error submitting, first of all, don't panic. Read the error message so that you know what to talk to the IT support about. The most common reasons we get problems is a file format error. So it might not be a file that can be read. So all of the TMAs have to meet the criteria that's set in the assignment booklet, and you might not have used one of those formats.
And generally speaking, they are essays and Word things on a Word document.
It depends what,
and sometimes
what you're doing,
PDFs.
you see. Yeah, so it's some courses that I work on, they have to send movies and audio files.
Yeah.
So again, it's knowing that you've got it in the right format that can be read. Too big is a problem, and there is a size limit. And if you've put more than one file together and zipped it, it might not like the zip file. So those are the things to check.
Now, some students, and one module I teach on, a level 2 science module, we ask students to send a dummy TMA so that they can practice zipping, because that can be something that's new to students, even if they're very used to the OU. And it's a requirement for the EMA, but again, it's something that can be confusing. So it's really important to know what the document is that you're supposed to be sending and comply with that, because if you've got the incorrect file, again, your tutor doesn't necessarily need to mark that.
Well, this is it, and particularly if it comes to an end of module assessment, then you can fail a course if they can't read it. So it's really important that you check the file formats and make sure it can be read.
And our friends at the OU Computing Help Desk can help with all sorts of things, because very often, even if you've got some sort of free software, you can convert files to other files. They're brilliant. They're open, really sensible, student-friendly hours, including on the weekends. So do make sure that you connect with the Student Computing Help Desk if you've got a problem. Rob, tell us about this grace rule, when the TMAs are due, and what the difference is between noon and midnight, and what the Computing Help Desk can do in that grey period between.
So back when I was studying in the late 2000s, we used to have till midnight to submit a TMA. So you'll notice all cut-off dates now are noon. We used to have till midnight. Problem is, students are students, and we leave it to the last minute. And at 10:45, oh dear, I can't get on. The problem is, there's nobody sat at the computer help desk at 11:45.
No.
So by bringing the submission time till midday, we know there is somebody available to help if there's a problem. That said, there is the grace period between noon and midnight, where it won't be classed as an extension or late, but you can't expect to automatically get help with your submission at that time.
So it's almost like, if the system crashes, we can't sort of do much about it.
We can't guarantee, we will, but we
Yeah.
can't guarantee it. The guaranteed help is there up to midday, but you do get the grace period up to midnight. But you shouldn't use that as your target. Your target should be midday, knowing that if there are some problems, you've then got another 12 hours to get it sorted.
Brilliant, excellent. And the computing help desk don't close at midday, but they close in the early evening. But
Yes.
but certainly they aren't.
But it
there
gives them
until
time
midnight.
to get the problem sorted and get you a solution.
Okay. And so in emergencies, there's this, but again, just contact your tutor because often
Yeah.
they can sort something out for you.
Never had to use, in 15 years, I've never had to use this particular one,
No.
which is quite handy to know. But it's there just in case the OU system does go down.
And this might be particularly important for EMAs, the end of module assessments, because the TMAs, you know, I had a student this morning who said, actually, I've had to take my child into hospital, I'm not going to be able to submit it, so I can just apply a day's extension for her, no problem. EMA's final, no messing with that, is there? So this is very important to know if you've got something that is examinable, that has the criteria, and that criteria is often midday, and that's something we can forget with this nice grace period.
Yes.
So for eTMAs, it's a lot more important that you get it in because you will fail.
And I say this to every group, and every group ignores it. Don't leave your EMA to the last day.
No, I know.
Send it in 2 days early, so have a mental thought that it's 2 days. That then gives you 2 days to cope with any problems, rather than leave it last minute.
Brilliant. And then people can put their PI, their personal identifier number, in there. Now, Rob, we're over time, but luckily we've got the Adobe Connect session. Very briefly, can you tell people what it's about? Because I'd like people to go and experience it with you in this lovely, safe environment that we've got. So literally, your 1 minute's task is how do we get people from here into the online room, and then what are they going to do when they're there with you?
Okay, well, I believe there's a link been put into the chat box.
Put that in the chat, yeah.
And if you haven't had enough of me yet, I'm going to run up the stairs in a moment when my computer's waiting. And we're going to say hi. If you're feeling confident, get your video on. We definitely want to hear from you. But there's a few examples, some quizzes and things to try out. So
Brilliant.
Daphne's joining me in the room.
Great.
And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in probably about 2 minutes.
And just as easily as it was getting into the Student Hub Live, people can just press the link that HJ put in the chat, or indeed you can find that on the Student Hub Live website. So just go into that room and you can talk to Rob. If you can't make it, don't worry. We'll be back in half an hour for some more live content. But Rob, that has been absolutely amazing showing us all of that, and particularly the eTMA system. You've really reassured us, I think, that it is very easy to use, and also given us some good advice there that I hope everyone remembers. Right, go and join Rob in the room if you would like to. Otherwise, grab a snack and a drink. We'll be playing a bit of replay, and then we'll be back in half an hour for some more Student Hub Live. I'll see you then.